हाँ प्रमोद, अभी मैं आया हूँ पेज के ऊपर
जी।
प्रमोद
लाइव है सर, हम लोग
लाइव हो गए हैं
जी।
एक सेकंड, अभी तक नजर नहीं आ रहा है। इसे मैं एडिट नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ प्रमोद, मैं एडिट नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ प्रमोद। प्रमोद कोई तरीका है क्या? एडिट नहीं हो रहा है। प्रमोद कोई तरीका है क्या? एडिट नहीं हो रहा है।
मैं लिंक भिजवाता हूँ सर।
आप लिंक अप कर दो, क्योंकि ये जो मैं पेजेस को लिंक करना चाहता था वो हो नहीं पा रहा है। एडिट ना, आप लिंक अप कर दो क्योंकि मैं लिंक करना चाहता था वो हो नहीं पा रहा है। हाँ कोई तरीका है? हेलो,
मेरे पास के जितने पेजेस है मैं उसमें लिंक अप कर दे रहा हूँ सर।
ओके,
मेरे पास के जितने पेजेस है मैं उसमें लिंक अप कर दे रहा हूँ।
ओके, इंक्लूडिंग यूट्यूब। और जब हम बात करेंगे दोनों को ही प्रोफाइल रखना इसके ऊपर प्रमोद। और जब हम बात करेंगे दोनों को ही,
जी जी।
ओके हम शुरू करें।
जी सर।
अच्छा ओके, ओके मैं शुरू करता हूँ। दोनों का प्रोफाइल रखना है स्क्रीन के ऊपर, ठीक है? ओके, ओके। जय हिंद, दिस इज ब्रिगेडियर हेमंत महाजन and I welcome you on another session of national security. We are going to have a very distinguished guest today, and the guest today with us is Lieutenant General Asif Mistry, PVSM, AVSM, Sena Medal, and VSM. General Mistry is a very distinguished officer from the Indian Army. He is from the Maratha Light Infantry, the regiment to which I belong, and he has had a very distinguished service, and his last appointment while in the army was Commandant NDA. Those from Maharashtra would remember that National Defence Academy, which is located at Khadakwasla, Pune, is a very important institution of the armed forces. Over his nearly 30 years of service in the army, he's served in various important staff and command appointments. I'll only mention few of them. He's a graduate of Defence Services Staff College, which is a very important institution of the Indian Army. Then he's commanded a battalion, a Maratha Light Infantry Battalion in Siachen Glacier. He commanded a mountain brigade in Assam in counter-insurgency operations. He commanded a RR force also in Kashmir. Also, another important appointment was that he was an area commander in Delhi and was responsible for commanding 3 Republic Day parades which take place on 26th of January every year. And it's a very important event in the calendar of our country. All of us have watched this parade, and his face therefore would be familiar with us. After his distinguished career in the armed forces, after retirement, he's joined the Rashtriya Raksha University, which is located in Gujarat, Gandhinagar, and he heads what is called, he's the director of School of International Security, Defense and Strategic Studies at the RRU. So therefore, his good experience is being put to very good use even after retirement. This discussion will conduct in 2 parts. In the first part, we will talk about the RRU and the department that he heads. We'll find out briefly as to what are the various activities that they do and how are they contributing to the security of the India as a nation. That is first part. And second part, we will talk about some practical threats which we face from China, especially we call it as a gray zone warfare, or also called as a hybrid warfare, or some people call it as a multi-domain warfare. The threats only seem to increase. Just today's newspapers were talking about a Chinese spy ship which has entered the territorial waters of Sri Lanka, and it is presently located in one of the ports in Sri Lanka in Colombo. So obviously from there, they can keep our southern tip ports underwater. Also, there was the incidents of the Chinese fighter aircraft flying very near to the LAC in Ladakh. We will talk about all this. But to start off, I'll ask General Mistry, please tell us about the RRU and also the department that he commands. And here I would like to make a very brief comment that initially the type of wars that we fought, they were restricted to conventional wars in which the armed forces of our country fought either Pakistan or China, Indian Army fighting Pakistani army and vice versa. But hardly a common man was involved in it. But now the nature of security threats is changing so much that national security is no more a subject of only the security forces or the armed forces or the Indian Army, but it's a subject which concerns every Indian because of various facets of the gray zone warfare or the hybrid warfare. So please tell us about the Rashtriya Raksha University, what has it done up till now, and also the department that you command. General Mistry.
Thanks, sir, and good morning, your viewers. It is indeed a great pleasure to be interacting with Brigadier Mahajan on this platform. Now, Rashtriya Raksha University is an institute of national importance which currently functions under the Ministry of Home Affairs. It is a pioneering institute in the field of national security studies. It owes its origin to the Raksha Shakti University that was set up in 2010 by the government of Gujarat under the then Chief Minister Shri Narendra Modi, who is currently the Honorable Prime Minister of India. In 2020, this institute was converted from a state university into a central university by an act of the parliament and designated an institute of national importance. That equates us to other autonomous institutes like the IITs and IIMs and gives us the power to constitute our own degrees and scope of education. RRU follows a model of tree, that is training, research, education, and activities. So we focus on these 4 fields of activities. We have 10 different schools which cover different aspects of national security and policing education in India. My school in particular is School of Internal Security, Defense and Strategic Studies. We offer an undergraduate course in Defense and Strategic Studies called the Bachelor of Defense and Strategic Studies, a postgraduate course called the MDSS, and also a PhD course for the practitioners. We also undertake a lot of outreach and training activities with the forces, security forces, the armed forces, the Central Armed Police Forces, the state police forces, and so on. The RRU has also got tie-up with a lot of global institutes. So we are an address of importance as far as security field is concerned at the global level. That is a brief introduction about my university.
Okay, thank you for your opening remarks. Now, what I want to ask you is, you have a very updated website which we can see very clearly on the net, and it very clearly tells you as to what all programs you are undertaking, what has been your latest events that are going to take place in the near future, etc. Very well laid out website it is. Now, I saw 2 interesting things there which certainly attracted my eyes. One was that you are involved also in technology induction, studying technology as to what effect it has on warfare, and obviously using it for the good of our country, technology. Now, the Russia and the Ukraine war is already in the 5th month, and the technology has been used in a very big way in this war. And there's a constant debate that is going on that, tanks versus anti-tank guns, aircraft versus anti-aircraft missiles, the drones flying there, etc. So the use of technology has really evened out the battlefield. So please tell us as to what exactly are you sort of discussing, debating, studying as far as the technology is concerned, and what kind of an entrance the technology is made into the Indian Armed Forces. General Mistry.
So particularly at the RRU, we have an establishment that is referred to as Security and Scientific Technical Research Association. The acronym stands for SISDSS. Now, this is our incubating mechanism for incubating startups who want to foray into the field of security technology. So SISDSS acts as a go-between between these and the security forces. So the needs of the security forces are conveyed to the trade, to the industry, and startups are encouraged to find solutions. And SISDSS then facilitates and acts as a facilitator or an incubator for startups in the field of security industry. So that is as far as our contribution towards our national security is concerned, and how we are supporting the whole concept of Atmanirbharta. As far as use of technology in the ongoing Ukraine and Russia war is concerned, while you've seen the highest of technology being deployed by both sides, particularly kind of technology that is being fielded through Ukraine, the Western technology. At the same time, you are seeing some very, very, vintage equipment, tanks of 1970s, 80s vintage, guns of that vintage, and you have the 21st century drones. So there is a great mix of vintage equipment versus as also the latest of technology. But what is really emerging is the role of the human being in this conflict. I think the human spirit has again prevailed upon whatever technology is available to both sides. I think the human spirit has again prevailed. Nobody expected the war to last so long. Everybody expected Russia to, wind up the operations in next, within 4 to 5 weeks. However, the war has continued for about 5 months, and both sides are unwilling to give up. On one side, the expectations were that Russia will not be able to withstand body bags going home with the experience of Afghanistan, the occupation of 70s and 80s in the backdrop. As against that, nobody expected Ukraine to be capable of standing up to the Russian might for such a long period. One side is using the best of what is available in terms of information operations, information warfare. It is the West is pumping the story of Ukraine's resistance. On the other hand, Russia is more or less silent. It's not telling its side of story at all. And yet, both have been able to sustain their morale, both have been able to sustain their contest against all expectations. So a lot of theories have been disproved, and a lot of new theories are coming up as a result of this war. A lot of theories have been disproved, and a lot of new theories are coming up as a result of this war.
Thanks a lot for your comments on how the technology is playing its role in the Russia-Ukraine war. And you rightly put it that there are two aspects as far as warfare is concerned: a soldier and the weapon that the soldier uses. And in this war, possibly it has come out that the Ukrainian soldiers, the Ukrainian will to fight, their fighting spirit has proved, I think, far too superior to the various kinds of technologies which the Russians have used. Mind you, Russia is the #2 military power as far as the world is concerned. They have all the front-end technologies, their cyber capabilities, their information warfare capabilities, their missiles, anything and everything is, I suppose, second only to Americans possibly. But still, that has not been able to defeat the human spirit. And we belong to a regiment of Maratha Light Infantry where our Yuga Purush is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and he used to follow the theory of leading from the front. I mean, we all know when he went to kill Afzal Khan, he went himself. He could have easily delegated the responsibility to somebody else. Well, he didn't do it because he wanted to prove to the world that when your king is with you, when your leader is with you, then the soldiers will, will do more than their duty. And just few days back, our Kargil war, we had the 23rd anniversary. Again, there, I suppose it was the Indian Army who led from the front and won the war. It was a war of young soldiers, young officers who ensured that the Pakistani army was thrown out. So human spirit, I understand. That's a very important thing. And I think the most complex instrument of war possibly is the human spirit. So I'm not sure whether you're studying human psychology at the Rashtriya Raksha University. Why do the soldiers fight? Why do they fight better? What can you do to make them fight better? Because possibly in a dispersed battlefield of today, especially in the counterinsurgency environment, a commanding officer or a company commander may not be present everywhere. At the point of contact, there may be a NCO or a maximum JCO. So are you by any means studying human psychology at your Rashtriya Raksha University? Because I think that is one aspect which we have to do, because a lot of us know what is to be done, but the willpower to do it in the dangerous situations, in fact, in the warlike situation is always not there. And I shouldn't be saying it too openly, but that is one of the reasons why Central Armed Police Forces or the paramilitary forces do not do as well as the Indian Army. So are you studying this human psychology as a subject at your institution, General Mistry?
Yes, sir, most certainly. And we do it in two different ways. First, under my school, as part of both the undergraduate and the postgraduate programs, military leadership is part of a paper of some of the semesters. So as part of military leadership, all elements of military leadership are studied and pursued. So therefore, the human element definitely comes into play. Plus, we have a school which is called the School of Criminology and Behavioral Science. So while in the past, their focus was more on studying the behavioral sciences related to policing part. But since the conversion of the Rashtriya Raksha University as a national university, the School of Criminology and Behavioral Sciences also study various elements of behavioral sciences as they pertain to warfare and conflict. So in both the disciplines, we are definitely studying the human behavioral patterns. Both disciplines, we are definitely studying the human behavioral patterns.
Thanks a lot. Now I want to come down to some hard nut bolts. Like there was a report that a Chinese vessel is already landed up in the Sri Lankan port at Colombo, and it will have the capability to keep our, let's say, ports of the southern India under fire, under observation. They have been there. And secondly, there have been reports that the Chinese have started following tactics, especially the fighter aircraft tactics, which they're using in a big way against Taiwan. I think there have been more than 4 or 5 incidences in which the Chinese fighter aircraft have flown very near to the international, to the LAC. And the rule is very clear for the sake of others who are watching this, that 10 kilometers away from the border, the fighter aircraft have to fly, so that there is no unnecessary incidents. But the Chinese have broken this rule and they're coming closer. Of course, the Indian Air Force is taken off from Avantipur and all those places where they are located and have responded to it. But my question is, what do you think the Chinese are trying to achieve? And they're doing it in a very, very big way in Taiwan. Almost every day, the Chinese fighter aircraft are getting into the Taiwan airspace. And then Taiwan, of course, responds by sending its own fighter aircraft. That is one. And this vessel coming nearby, do we respond the Taiwan way? Is our response up to the mark? Do we need to do something more? Or we should just let it pass away and let them keep on wasting their time and flying all over the Ladakh? Because what is that they don't know about Ladakh that this fighter aircraft will tell them? So your brief comments on that, General Mistry.
So, we have to see all these things as a pieces of a large jigsaw puzzle and not see them in isolation. And we must first try and correlate the larger aspects of the China-India relationship. Now, there is an environment of competition and rivalry between China and India, and which is a persistent kind of situation. And if we have a legacy issue of a border dispute, but the moot question is the border dispute a result of the rivalry between two countries, or is a dispute creating rivalry between two countries? If one thinks that if you resolve the border dispute, then all the outstanding issues between China and India are going to be resolved, I think we are living in a fool's paradise. We have to look at China in a long-term perspective. China certainly looks at its security environment, its strategic environment with a very, very long-term perspective. There is, among these Sino experts, there is a kind of an understanding that China is on a 100-year marathon. That since 1949, this marathon has started, and by middle of the 21st century, it wants to be the numero uno superpower of the world. And all its actions are designed to achieve that purpose. And in that effort, it wants to reorient the external strategic environment in a manner that is conducive to its own interests. And therefore, it is trying to influence the regional environment and ensure that the regional environment is aligned to its interests. So the rivalry that is there, the competition that is there between India and China is a manifestation of this kind of long-term Chinese design. In pursuit of this design, the gray zone tactics is something that has been adopted by China and practiced for a long time by China as a part of its statecraft. It's only of late that people have become more alive to it and have started analyzing it. Now, what is gray zone tactics? It is anything between the normal conventional diplomatic activities among nations, the normal basic economic exchange, the socio-cultural exchanges that take place among nations. And at the other extreme, you have the kinetic military conflict. So anything that is in between, which is used in a coercive manner to further their own security objectives or their own strategic objectives, constitutes what is referred to as the gray zone tactics. So all this saber rattling, all this kind of influencing the neighbors around India, or the term that was more common in the last decade was the string of pearls strategy, is a result and part and parcel of the gray zone tactics. So nominate or getting hold of the Hambantota port through the predatory economic policies of China, whereby you lead nations into debt trap and thereafter get control of vital strategic assets, is a part of the larger Chinese game. So the ship landing there is only probably one of the tactical manifestation of the larger game. Similarly, the aircraft showing aggressive kind of maneuvers close to the LAC is part of those gray zone tactics, where you play a game of brinkmanship and try and invite some kind of reaction, but yet you control the levers of the escalatory matrix. Also, we have to see it in a larger perspective and have to have a long-term design of how to handle China. Also, we have to see it in a larger perspective and have to have a long-term design of how to handle China.
Thanks a lot for your comments. I want to raise two more points. One is some people suggest that if Chinese can send a ship, a recce ship to Sri Lanka, why can't we do something similar by sending our ship to, let's say, Vietnam? That is one. Or second, there was a news 1 year back that the Chinese have given 2 submarines on loan to the Bangladesh Navy. Now, for God's sake, whom do you think Bangladesh Navy is going to use these submarines against? So a lot of people felt that these submarines are basically for carrying out recce. It will be piloted by the crew of the Chinese, and they will use it basically to get all the information that they want about the Andaman Sea, etc. So if they are doing something similar, can we not do something similar in the Southeast Asia, where if you want to go towards South China Sea, etc., where we can do something similar? So one is a response to the 2 submarines of theirs with the Bangladesh Navy, that is number one. And number 2, of course, sending our recce ships, etc., to Taiwan and all those places. Taiwan, of course, will be maybe too far, but at least to South Vietnam and Philippines and other places where our BrahMos is going to be given shortly as per the news. So why can't we go there and train the Philippines on the firing BrahMos, etc.? And also here only I bring another aspect, that there was a news about last week only, if I remember it correctly, in which the Chinese have built a village just below the Doklam Plateau, but it's in the area of Bhutan. So therefore, legally we can say nothing about it, because Bhutan, though we are supposed to be responsible for their security and we definitely help them, but then Bhutan is an independent country. But the fact is that the village has come up in an area which belongs to Bhutan, but it overlooks our Siliguri corridor, etc. So we definitely get worried, because Siliguri corridor's importance is known to anybody and everybody. It's a narrow strip of land which connects mainland India with, let's say, northeast India. So what should be our response? Because at the end of the day, you got to have some solutions. So Bangladesh Navy, our recce ships, and of course, Doklam, Chinese village coming up there. Your comments, General Mistry.
Yes, so you're covering a large gamut of activities from the ocean to the high Himalayas. I'm not too sure whether this the report about 2 submarines being given on loan or on some kind of arrangement to Bangladesh, how far it is true, is it confirmed, corroborated, is not certain. Nevertheless, there is nothing that stops India from undertaking various kind of activities in the South China Sea, either as right to freedom of passage, or in pursuit of other academic or economic activities. Like you undertake joint exploration of oil, this thing in conjunction with your friends in the region. You could do a joint exploration of say oil options in the South China Sea in conjunction with Vietnam, or say Philippines, or some other nations. So these are options that are very much available, and I'm sure they are being practiced. We've done that in the past, and we can ratchet it up whenever we want. So those options are available. As far as the Doklam reports are concerned, yes, it has been in the news, and this has been China's game of developing infrastructure along the LAC all over Tibet, not only in the Doklam Plateau. Doklam, it is extra sensitive in terms of tactical implications because of the proximity to the Siliguri corridor. It's certainly a very sensitive issue. But then tactically, the whole Chimbu Valley is very highly vulnerable. So, there are enough options available for us to do any activity if we want to do a counteraction. But more important is the kind of infrastructure that we create in the entire LAC region, all the way from, say, eastern Ladakh up to the Arunachal Pradesh. And that gives us multiple options to be able to do counter actions if required as and when. Like people are getting a little worried about the aircrafts coming close to the LAC. While that is a tactical action, I would say we should focus on the way the airfields are being developed all over the Tibet Autonomous Region. I would say we should focus on the way infrastructure is being created to house the aircrafts. There is a kind of a perception, which is true up to a point, that the aircrafts taking off from the high altitude airfields of Tibet are at a disadvantage in terms of all-up weight, and therefore they cannot carry as much ammunition or payload as an aircraft taking off from a mean sea level. That is true, but that disadvantage can be offset today in a number of ways. First, you can extend the length of runway, so that enables you to overcome the weight penalty. And more important, today in this era of aerial refuelers, you can take off with minimal amount of fuel and take maximum payload, and once you are airborne, you can always refuel. So the disadvantages that were very intrinsic towards the high altitude plateaus in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, today most of those disadvantages are being overcome. Similarly, the kind of the highway network that is being created all over Tar and from the hinterland to Tar, it gives the capability of a much faster buildup of forces to the PLA. The kind of integration of forces that is being done, it gives much greater capability, and all this combined together has given them an incentive to continue to raise the pitch and raise the levels of brickmanship. So it is at the strategic level that we have to look at this competition, and not merely the tactical manifestation of the competition per se. It is at the strategic level that we have to look at this competition, and not merely the tactical manifestation of the competition.
Okay. Actually, this thing can be discussed further, but I want to now take this discussion to a different level, and that is about the economic subversion that the Chinese are doing in the Indian economy, subversion of the Indian economy. Today, we know that if you take a, let's say, history of imports and exports between the two countries of last 10 years, the Chinese exports to us were nearly 3 or 4 times more than what we sent to them. And the government has been trying desperately under Atmanirbhar Bharat and manufacturing in India to reduce the difference between the imports and the exports. But last 3 years, despite putting in tremendous amount of effort, and I use the word in a very mature manner, that we have put in tremendous amount of effort in trying to manufacture a lot of things in India, But instead of the trade deficit decreasing, it is only increased. And the last year's figures show that it is nearly 85 billion rupees. So much is the trade deficit despite all our efforts. So the question is, if they are economically subverting the Indian economy, there is no doubt at all. There are a lot of people in the Indian corporate world who have come to a conclusion that they cannot survive without the Chinese. And I was actually tempted to give an example of NDA, when some of us who entered NDA did not know swimming. We were taught swimming in one day, and thereafter next day we were thrown in the water. And automatically we realized the most important part of swimming is to keep your head above water. That's about all. If you do that, you learn swimming. So I think that the time has come to throw the corporate world into the water and tell them survive without China. Now, specifically, I want to ask you two questions. Last almost 6 or 7 days, the Chinese phone makers, the mobile makers are in limelight. Be it, Vivo. Today, the Chinese phone makers, Chinese mobile makers, their percentage of Indian market is about 60-70%. And this ED, the Income Tax Department, the CBI have been carrying out a methodical investigation against them and have come out with figures which have come up in the open media saying that they have sent away nearly $6 to $7 billion of profits outside India illegally. They have evaded taxes, they have not paid import duty, they have got things illegally, etc. And so the search is on. So now what I want to ask you here is, this economic subversion the Chinese are very good at, and in that they are aided and abetted by, let's say, corrupt bureaucracy or others who don't have a national spirit as they would want it to be, So how do you control the Chinese subversion of the Indian economy? Because despite Atmanirbhar Bharat, despite Make in India, Vocal for Global, all kinds of slogans that we have, but the demonstrated performance on ground is that we have not been able to get out of the Chinese clutches. And even as it stands today, of course, let me not paint only a very grim picture, because when you start discussing China, it appears as if Chinese are 7.5 feet tall, which they are not. The today's latest information was that Indian economy is the fastest growing economy in the whole world, and China is the slowest growing economy in the whole world. So if that may make Indians happy, but the fact is they have been able to carry out a subversion of the Indian economy. So your comments on how do we deal with this aspect of the Chinese ingress into our economy? General Mistry.
So before I answer this question, I must lay out a caveat. I am neither an economist nor an economic expert. So this is not a subject of my specialization. Nevertheless, I will try and answer it to the best of my knowledge and give it the security perspective. First of all, this is a very complex issue, and we need to see it with a more rational and a logical approach to it rather than getting emotional and sentimental. We need to see it with a more, the trade between India and China in around 2000 at the turn of the millennium was about $3 billion. In 2019, this trade had grown to about almost $100 billion. It was about $92 billion plus. Till, of course, then the corona came and there was a lockdown, and so therefore the figures of 2020 and 2021 should not be taken at face value. Although there are all indications, if you take month by month figures, that more or less the trade is being restored to the pre-corona levels. Now, there is no gainsaying the fact that there is a great trade imbalance, that the imports from China are much more than the exports that we do. But there are some silver linings to this. Earlier, most of our exports were raw materials, and there was not enough value addition. Now, instead of exporting only iron ore, we are sending finished steel. So therefore, there is a greater value addition, and the gap is being narrowed. In this globalized world of economic interdependence, probably an outright boycott may not be a solution. In fact, it may not be in our interest itself. Like, we are one of the one of the strong actors in the pharmaceutical industry in the world. But 70% of our raw material for pharmaceutical industry, what is known as the API, that is the active pharmaceutical ingredients. These are imported from China. And that is being converted into finished medicines by us and being exported. So there is a kind of a mutual advantage that we need to exploit. So therefore, a complete boycott of Chinese business is probably not practical. Price-wise, their products are far, far more competitive than ours. So even if you ban the import of, say, Chinese lamps during Diwali, with 40% increase in the cost, they were still 50% cheaper than the Indian versions. So it's a very complex issue. So how do we need to tackle this? We must make, let's not get overawed that we are in a debt trap of China or that they have subverted our economy. No, there is a trade relationship which is not very heavily balanced in our favor, but it doesn't mean that our economy is being subverted by China. Our economy is too strong and too large to be subverted by China or any other one singular power. So our economy is that way fairly stable. We are not like Sri Lanka or Maldives or some of the African countries where the China has created such a debt trap that it has literally got these countries or the strategic assets into their jugular clutches. Having said that, how do we ensure our strategic balance and strategic autonomy? First and foremost, in any sector which has direct security implications, like the 5G, like the computer networks, which have a bearing on our security, those must be declared exclusive for domestic products. Therefore, entry of Chinese or any other foreign companies, unless they are security vetted, must be banned. Then there are certain segments of economy which have strategic importance. They may not have a security implication, but they are strategically very important. They are very critical. And therefore, you do not want to give a leverage to a rival whereby he can deny you access at critical times. So these again must be identified and must be kept exclusive for yourself or your friends or allies. Therefore, there is greater reliability. More than that, you have to build up greater competitiveness about your economic prowess. Your industry has to be far more competitive. You have to make your investment environment more conducive. Post the experience of COVID, large number of manufacturers want to get out of China and they are looking at alternative locations. It is here we must grab the opportunity by creating a conducive environment so that we can induce these leading manufacturers of the world to relocate from China to India. But unless we give them the competitive advantages, they are not going to relocate. Nobody does business out of sentiments. People do business out of rational, cool, calm, composed, business decisions. So we have to make that environment far more conducive, and that has got to be a long-term solution. I think these 3-4 aspects, if we take care, we will make sure that we are not. I will refuse to accept the word our economy is being subverted by Chinese. Yes, there is a trade imbalance, but we can take care of it in times to come. I will refuse to accept the word our economy is being subverted by Chinese. Yes, there is a trade imbalance, but we can take care of it.
Okay. Thanks for your comments. I want to take it now to a different level. I want to tell the audience here that everybody is familiar with the quadrilateral security cooperation of India, Australia, Japan, and USA, etc. But we have an economic quad also, which is called as the I2U2. That is, I stand for Israel and India, and U2 stands for USA and UAE. So what it simply means is technology of, say, Israel and USA capital from UAE, all being manufactured in India. This will create a replacement chain which will be able to counter the Chinese, but more of it some other time. I thought we should not paint only a grim picture as far as the Indian economy is concerned. We have our responses, but possibly we need to do more to catch up with the Chinese. Now I want to take a discussion to a different level. It's about, call it information warfare, call it psychological warfare, call it perception management, call it by any name. But the fact is, at regular intervals, articles appear in Indian media, and latest article said in a well-known journal, which all of you know, I don't want to name it, that China with their artificial intelligence can beat up the Indian armed forces anytime. That was one article which it came. And then there are some articles which paint a very negative picture of the capabilities of the Indian armed forces, saying that we are not capable of defending this. If China does something in Bhutan, we can do nothing. Siliguri corridor, there are problems. We all know Siliguri corridor is one of the strongest held area in our country's defensive line. So we are quite capable of meeting all the challenges. But at regular intervals, in various think tanks, articles do appear which cast a doubt in the minds of an average Indian that all is not well. Should a war again start, I mean, there will be a problem. And what is worst is, while some of the Indian media people keep on parroting that we lost 20 soldiers there in Galwan, including Colonel Babu, who got a Mahavir Chakra there, they don't tell the fact that 70 Chinese soldiers were killed there. You know, the report is always one way. So the subject that I'm really talking about is subversion of some selected people who have an influence, who do write in known magazines, newspapers, and journals. How do we tackle them? If you have to tackle them, that is. And secondly, do we have? Can we do something similar in Global Times? In my whole last 10 years, I've been trying to read Global Times. I've never seen an article which favors Indian view or which tries to, let's say, tell the Chinese that you are no good, you are running away, etc., etc. So let's call it offensive information operations. So your comments on both these, General Mistry.
So you will not find anything on Global Times because obviously it is a platform controlled by the government of China or by the CCP. So short answer to that short comment is that. But again, let me take you back to what I said earlier, that all this is part of the larger campaign or tactics, which is referred to as the gray zone tactics. One of the instruments of gray zone tactics is in the domain of cyber and information operations. And this is where shaping the opinion is being taken to new levels. And China has developed and refined this into a fine art. And it does it in multiple modes. It does some through direct funding, some through indirect. It's a very complex game. It has developed all over the world, this Confucius Institutes. What are these? These are institutions so-called for pursuit of academic vistas, studies. But who's funding them? They are all being funded by the Chinese government. So they are in a direct and indirect manner dictating the narrative. There is some funding which is done directly. You look at the number of universities in US that are getting grants and assistance and investment by Chinese companies. So in today's complex economic world, you can even create cutouts and filters and conceal from where actually the money is coming. And that's how you are creating an environment where you are shaping the narrative. Some of this is done through indirect means like funding the research projects in universities, etc. Some is done directly by establishing think tanks like the Confucius Institute. Some is by financing think tanks itself, by buying advertisements in newspapers, pure commercial advertisements, huge pages, So now, large number of people will read these newspapers and will not read the fine print whereby it says that this is a commercial content. Some of the newspapers have got investment. And then there are people who are targeted. There are people who because of their own intellectual pursuits or bend of mind, are open to, are inherently, say, anti-West or anti-capitalist. Their thinking is on the socialist line, and therefore they are very easy to be influenced in favor of the Chinese viewpoint. And then there are people who are bought outrightly. So there are multiple ways in which there is a full-fledged design by China to shape the opinion, to dictate the narrative. And we have to be careful about it. Some of the countermeasures that we need to do is, first and foremost, the inflows to various think tanks, various research institutes, various universities, that must be clearly available, must be tracked, must be reported to the government. No grants, no financial assistance should be received by any academic institute without being reported or at least reported to the government. There must be clear transparency about it. The issue is that they create so much of openness that you cannot trace where this money has come from. So there has to be a clear linkage established from where the money is coming. And if there is any kind of grey question mark, grants should absolutely be ceased. You have to sell your own narrative. You have to create a parallel narrative which is equally credible, which has more, and that the truth by itself will be able to give you the narrative that you require. But you have to be smart about it. To tell your truth, you don't have to stand on a rooftop and keep shouting at the loudest volume. You have to be smart about it, like they are doing it. You also need to create similar kind of third-party institutes which will sell your story. So there are any number of ways you can do this. They are doing it. You also need to create similar kind of third-party institutes which will sell your story. So there are
Okay. Discussion on China's grey zone warfare can carry on, but today we are short of time, so I'll just cover one issue and then we will close today's discussion. And what I want to ask you today is the United Kingdom or England's elections are going to come on in a short while. And there are two contenders there, Mr. Rishi Sunak, who is an Indian, son-in-law of Sri Narayan Murthy, and the Foreign Secretary, erstwhile Foreign Secretary called Tusk, if I pronounce the name correctly. What interested me was Rishi Sunak said that China is the biggest threat as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. They are subverting the United Kingdom. Rishi Sunak, either he'll be a prime minister or the lady Tusk, she also said China is the biggest influence as far as UK is concerned. And if she becomes the prime minister, she is going to sort them out in so many words. I mean, she's given a longest speech. But what they both of them, number one and number two, one of them is going to be a prime minister, talks about Chinese invading United Kingdom in various fields. And I think they should know because they are going to be the prime minister and they are also a position of power earlier also. Now, the question that I want to ask you is, and something similar is also appearing in, let's say, in United States also, no less a person than Donald Trump said that Chinese had subverted the democratic system of the USA. I'll leave it at that. But the question that I want to ask you is, the democratic world in particular is worried about this information warfare or the psychological warfare by the Chinese. So like we have built up the economic alliances like I2U2 and security alliances like Quad, etc. Is there a scope for building information war alliances with the democratic world so that the power of the democratic world and technological power is tremendous, be it USA, be it UK, etc. Can that be used to counter the Chinese disinformation war? Your comments, and after that, I'll also request you to give your concluding remarks, and then I'll conclude the discussion. General Mistry.
So it's very, very, very heartening to note that even in the dialogue or discussions for the leadership of the Conservative Party in the UK, despite the Russia-Ukraine war going on for the last 5 months, the primary threat or risk or challenge that is posed by China has not been lost sight of. One of the apprehensions or fears of this ongoing conflict is that the attention of the West and US in particular would get diverted towards the European theater, taking it away from the primacy of Indo-Pacific or the looming threat or challenge of China. So it is good that at least in the domestic discussions also, both the candidates are focusing or not taking the eye off the ball as far as China is concerned. As far as the information operations or influence building is concerned, yes, there is plenty of scope for coordination and of synergy among the like-minded countries. And I'm sure a lot is being done on that. But for obvious reasons, you do not discuss this in the open domain. Else, the effectiveness of this campaign may be compromised. So that is as far as the information operations is concerned. Overall, it's been a very nice discussion. We've covered a range of topics. More than anything else, I hope that my introductory remarks and introduction about the university would encourage them to explore options for admissions. Our admission process is still on, and the dates have been extended till about 7th, 8th. So we hope that a large number of your viewers do log in and register for admission at the Rashtriya Raksha University, which is the prime education for security education in India today. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. We have had a very interesting discussion with General Mistry, and we covered a large canvas right from information warfare to perception management to Chinese inclusion of Ladakh, Chinese ship coming in Sri Lanka, etc. And this is a gray zone warfare. There is no definite solution to it. We have to watch the situation, respond accordingly. So all that remains for me now to do is to thank General Mistry for an interesting discussion on the subject. And we also request him, should he have time which he can spare from the busy schedule, then maybe we can have some more sessions on a subject, because this is one subject, call it hybrid warfare, call it gray zone warfare, for which something is being written. Unfortunately, it is my personal opinion that the experts are not focusing on China as much as we should do, because Pakistan, even a school child knows as to what is to be done against Pakistan. Okay, so there is no further discussion required against Pakistan. But Chinese gray zone challenges, Chinese hybrid challenges, there is a lot of research required to be done, and more research is required to be done on what kind of a response should you do, because the moment you give a response, there will be a counter response. So you have to really wait very, very well. The response, does it help you? Does it help the Chinese, etc.? These are all a gray zone warfare. So thank you very much, General Mistry, for coming on this platform today. And I'm sure our audience has benefited because of it. And I'm sure they will share this video with as many people as possible. Thank you, and Jai Hind, and thank you, General Mistry, once again.
Thanks.